It's Wednesday, January 4th, and this is Geeknights. Tonight, we talk about The Boy Who Saw the Wind.
Let's do this. So, I fell asleep at work again.
You actually fell asleep at work, like...
I was sitting in the control center, this data center we have, with the hum of all the machines and all the coolers, and I was looking at a packet capture, and I just fell asleep, sitting there staring at it. And then, a minute later, I woke up, what? Where the hell am I? Oh, crap.
Wow, really asleep.
Yeah, I really haven't slept more than a few hours since our party on New Year's, which was many days ago.
You know, in all of school ever, I've rested, but I only fell asleep in a class once.
What? In school, I would regularly go into a class, plop my head down, and just go right to sleep.
Wow.
Purposefully.
I only fell asleep, really asleep one time because it was just so damn boring. Oh my God.
See, I would go to classes specifically to sleep. I'd be tired, but I'd go to class pretty much just in case the professor decided to give us homework or told us when the test was. And I'd kind of, find out that way. Or maybe there was homework due, and I'd find out that I didn't do it, and then maybe I could turn it in late. But other than that, I didn't care about anything else going on in the class, so I just sleep in the back.
Man, I always messed up, which classes to go to and which ones not to.
Yeah.
Our freshman year, I skipped, a chemistry class on a Friday, and there was a test. And you could drop one test, but that was the easy test. So I ended up getting a bad grade because I skipped the easy test and I took the hard tests that came later. Even though I knew all the stuff from, high school chemistry, I just totally didn't care about it and forgot.
Yeah, luckily I didn't have to take any science at RIT. I got that all taken care of in high school.
Yeah, and then, let's see, software engineering, there was, a lecture for part of the quarter. And I skipped all of them but 2 or something crazy like that. I don't even remember I didn't go to it at all. I don't know what I was thinking, but I probably should have gone to that. Even though it was kind of crappy and boring.
One class I accidentally didn't skip. I accidentally went to class because I forgot what day it was, and that actually saved me. It was Visual Basic 2, and VB is probably the stupidest language ever, and the class was stupid, and there was a lecture in a lab, and the lecture consisted entirely of an exam. 80% of your grade, this exam, and then the rest was a pass-fail lab, and a little bit of lab work. So I went to the labs because I had to, but I never went to the lecture after the first day. And I went on what I thought was the last day of class to take the exam, and then I discovered that actually it was Wednesday, or it was Wednesday, but for some reason I thought it was Thursday. So, and also the exam was 2 parts over 2 days. So I accidentally showed up the day early when the exam started, and thus I didn't fail.
Luck.
Yeah.
What if you had gone on the last day?
You know what? About 20 people showed up on the first day of the exam, and about 60 people showed up on the second day.
Wow.
Yeah, that's how awesome that class was.
That's awesome.
I got an A.
That's really awesome.
Yeah. The professor was like, I haven't seen any of you before. I'm sure you're in the right class. He was this funny little Japanese guy, but he wasn't that interesting. Yep. I don't know if it was because of the subject matter or if he was just a boring guy, but never saw him again.
If only I had a DS in those days. Could play it during class.
Well, when I had that laptop or that tablet PC I was testing for the school, I just took it to class and freaking read /dot. I never really did any. I didn't pay attention anymore.
That's what I think is a good thing I didn't have a laptop in college, because that's what I would have done. I wouldn't have actually paid attention to any class.
Yeah, a lot of our classes took place in labs with computers, so I'd just be dicking around on the internet or doing homework for other classes.
It's great when they have a lab with rows and rows of computers facing the front. The teacher's at the front. He can't see what's on any of the monitors.
Yep.
And then you walk by, and there's a glass wall, and you can see what everyone's doing. And half the people are in AIM, and half the people are playing poker.
Man, I miss those days so much. Yeah.
But you know what? I laugh at them now because guess what? I got a degree despite all that fucking around.
Yep. We got degrees and jobs.
High-paying jobs.
Yeah. We're adults.
Fair.
It's kind of scary.
Ooh.
I mean, I got my tax thing in the mail yesterday, and it wasn't the 1040 Easy. No, it was the 1040A, which is you're an adult and you have to pay real taxes form.
I'm going to have to do that. I think I can do it myself on a website somewhere.
Yeah, I used to use H&R Block just because it's free and it's easy, but I'm going to do it myself because I got a lot of weird deductions and I don't trust them.
I'm either going to use a website that I just fill it out for free, or I'm going to use a website where I pay a little bit of money or something like that. It shouldn't be too bad.
Yeah.
Better than mailing shit.
So the DS reached the 10 million mark.
As in, there are 10 million DSs?
As then, 10 million DSs have been sold. Now,
Where?
note I say sold and not shipped, because that's what Sony has this thing where Sony will say how many PSPs were quote-unquote sold, but they mean sold to retailers, not sold to people. Nintendo, in the press release, specifically said 10 million DSs have been sold to people. We have shipped many more. Those 10 million are the ones that people bought.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of a jab at Sony and their number faking.
Well, you know what? It always happens that when you're winning the numbers game, you always want to stick to the truth in the numbers game and do that. But when you're losing the numbers game, you always want to, fudge it and then make up some talky talk. I mean, when Nintendo was losing the numbers game with the GameCube, they did the same thing. So that's just how they play.
Yeah.
But it makes it easy to just you never know the exact number unless someone goes and finds it out with a lot of money and research to do the real stuff. But it just lets you know who's winning. It's the people who are going, these are the real numbers of the winners. So DS winning.
Yeah, and you know what? I think I see all the reasons why. It's finally all coming to clarity. For one, I noticed that all the old guys at my office who don't even know who Mario is and have no idea about video games, they all got their kids DSs and Nintendogs or things like that, like Animal Crossing for Christmas. And they had no idea how the Nintendo Wi-Fi worked, and I had to spend 10 minutes today explaining to them what it was and how to use it. They just didn't get it.
Nintendo did everything they possibly could to make it easy for people. Well, I don't know why they don't just sell the Wi-Fi things to people in the store. If you want it, you have to kind of get it online.
Yeah, but they were amazed when I showed them NintendoWiFi.com, and they discovered that, wow, every McDonald's everywhere just about has Wi-Fi.
Mm-hmm.
They were like, why would they do that? It's not that popular, is it? And I was like, well, one, it's super popular, and two, yeah.
Yep.
Shut up.
I mean, having free Wi-Fi in the McDonald's just keeps fat people another reason to keep sitting there to maybe get another burger.
Well, a lot of people around here don't have broadband. Surprisingly, a lot of people, considering how close we are to New York City. I mean, either it's not available or they just don't see a need, and a lot of them are paying a lot of money for really crappy dial-up.
Yeah, I don't know why anyone uses dial-up anymore. I just don't get it.
Actually, my dad just got dial-up.
He just got it?
It's $8 a month.
That's not so bad.
Yeah, considering all he does is surf the web a little and check his email.
Oh, if you're just checking email, what the hell?
Yeah, because the cable company out there was raping him. Even with the discount for having cable TV.
I've heard of DSL people raping, but not cable.
The cable people here are raping us a little compared to what we should be paying.
Yeah, but that can be expected because we're trying to screw their business model. It's
yeah.
At least it works and it's fast.
Though the other factor, aside from, little kiddies playing Nintendogs, that we really, really found out and we really, really pushed to the max at our New Year's party. We had 8 people and 8 DSs. Let me tell you, 8-person Bomberman, where every single person in the game is a real live person who's sitting next to you and punching you in the arm after you blow them up, is one of the most fantastic experiences a man can have.
I mean, it's pretty amazing back in the day when you had 4 Game Boys with that wire thing.
Yeah, those stupid wires. You're huddled in a corner all together. You can barely move. Someone pops their cable out and the game's over.
Yeah, but while it worked, it was the greatest thing. But there was just frustration overhead.
This is that times a million. We're 7 of us.
You remove all the frustration overhead and you double the fun.
We're running around blowing each other up. One person gets up to go to the bathroom. They just bring the DS in there with him and keep playing because it's wireless.
Oh, yeah.
And 8-player Mario Kart pretty much defines that game. I mean, if you don't have 7 friends with DSs, kill some hobos and reanimate their corpses as zombies, and then give them DSs and teach them how to play, and then race against them.
Why don't you just give the hobos DSs?
Yeah, they're hobos. Wouldn't you rather have a zombie than a hobo?
A zombie is better. It's two more.
It's 2 more.
All right.
Yeah. So the DS wins. And the sales are actually split pretty much 50-50 between the US and Japan. Japan has 1 million more. It's 5 million Japan, 4 million US, and then 1 in every other country.
Yeah, but percentage-wise, that's not so good. If you look at the number of people total in U.S. versus total in Japan, That's like a big percent of Japanese people are DSing, and many small percent of U.S. people are DSing.
A lot of people have pointed out that one reason for that is that in Japan, there's one more gamer market that games have come out for that haven't hit the U.S. yet. Those train your brain games.
I just don't understand. I mean, there's some games that are very difficult to bring across to other countries, and that's understandable. I mean, if you make a game about learning the Japanese language, or a game about learning English and it's all in Japanese, or very, very text-heavy games, you know, where there's like actual writing of text, like a Tokimeki thing where it actually they have a huge, very powerful, complex system of reading Japanese words out loud, text-to-speech. I can understand not bringing that thing over directly because it's very difficult. But there's no reason you can't bring something over like... they still haven't brought over Shonen Jump, the fighting game.
Yeah, even though every fanboy in the world imported it.
Yeah, I know. It's like, why? It would take me maybe a few weeks if I had a kit to translate the game, if I had also had a translator with me, and put it out in the U.S. What the hell? Just, even if you want to delay it like a little bit, put it out in the U.S. 3 weeks later. Put it out in the U.S. a month later. It's been like months and months and months and months. What the hell's wrong with you? There's no reason not to release every single game you can in every single market you can. You know, if you have to. I remember when they released Katamari in the U.S., they didn't know it was going to be huge, but someone must have pushed for the release to happen. That's why every store sold out, because they didn't know it was going to be a big game. They just bought like 2 copies in each store or whatever. And they all sold out.
See, they should do what the anime companies do and just go to gamer conventions, anime conventions, and just look at what kids are talking about and then import those games.
Or what they should do is like the GameStops and the EBs should import games, like, or at least offer a game import service. Like, here's a list of games that you can import for like $20 more than the normal price. And then see which games get imported. And as soon as a game gets imported, like a single store, like 2 or 3 times, it's time to, get that game over here.
Yeah.
Pronto.
But these Train Your Brain games, they hit this demographic of gamer that has not yet been touched in the U.S. It's older people who want mental stimulation. Mm-hmm. It's basically the same market as people who like really get into crossword puzzles or like Sudoku.
I don't know what's up with this Sudoku thing.
God, a guy at work got like he discovered it and got really into it.
You know what? It looks to me like I've seen Sudoku before in my life. And I knew about the puzzle, and I always thought it was a dumb puzzle because a computer can solve it in about 2 seconds.
It's the same as Minesweeper. You sit there, and it's a task that is repetitive, and once you learn the pattern, it's just a matter of iterating it.
Yep, there's no actual thinking involved. It's just, once you know how to find the solution, you're just performing an algorithm that the computer can perform. And it's not really like a strategy or a complex thought or anything. But anyway, enough about the game itself. I saw it a long time ago because I used to get all those little game magazines, for stuff to do on like trains and stuff and planes or long trips in the car. And Sudoku was one of the puzzles that was thrown in. It wasn't any different from any of the other ones. I usually didn't do it because it was boring. But it's like all of a sudden I started seeing these things like Sudoku's the latest craze. And then right after I heard Sudoku was the latest craze, I saw books and I saw like pages in newspapers and it was all over the place. And I'm thinking to myself, I didn't see it being a craze before. I see it being a craze now. I think it's a manufactured craze.
I could see that. I could really see that.
I really think Sudoku is a manufactured craze. No one was interested in Sudoku. It was just some other dumb puzzle, just like all those other dumb types of puzzles. But I think someone said, hey, we can make books out of this and make a lot of money. Let's do some PR and make everyone think it's a craze, and then put out books right before the holiday season, and put it in newspapers, and it worked.
Yeah.
So if they can I want to find out who manufactured, if it is indeed manufactured, because I think it is. I'm 90% sure. I want to find out who manufactured the Sudoku craze, and have them manufacture crazes about all sorts of nerdy things I like to make them popular and cheap.
But moving on, in slightly less video game-related news, because you could consider voting a video game, I guess. It's just a really boring video game, and the end always sucks. Wisconsin did something awesome.
Land of cheese.
Basically, they did it a little while ago, and you might have heard of it, but today, the governor signed it into law. And this law states that, one, anytime an electronic voting machine is used in Wisconsin, it must be fully 100% open source.
That's good.
Two, there must be a paper trail that is both untamperable, like you can't tamper with it, and you can visually verify your own vote before you leave the booth.
That's good too.
It's pretty much exactly what anyone who's smart has been advocating for the last forever.
Should be a federal law.
Yeah, well, Wisconsin did it. Diebold is very pissed. Well, Diebold.
Yeah, well, their choices are not sell voting machines to Wisconsin or make voting machines that don't suck.
Yeah.
See, the thing is this is great because, normally Diebold could technically get away with giving good voting machines to Wisconsin and bad voting machines to everyone else, right? But it's not profitable for them to make multiple different kinds of voting machines, especially just for one exception. So either they can just give up on Wisconsin and lose that money, which they probably will do, and someone else will fill the void, or they'll just make all of them the Wisconsin way and then, sell the same machine to everyone. But then there's the problem of states might not actually use the paper trail. They just might not put any receipts in it or whatever, who knows.
Well, this law says you have to.
Oh, yeah, but that's only in Wisconsin.
Yeah.
So even though
even then,
Diebold,
if it's open source, it's a lot harder to screw with it because if there's a back door, some geek will see it and say, hey, why is that there?
well, I don't think that Diebold's about to release any source that incriminates them.
No, because honestly, not to sound like a
And if they
conspiracy
do,
nut,
that'll be the most hilarious thing ever.
I mean, I'm not saying that Diebold threw the elections or anything like that because there's really no way to know.
Even though there's a lot of circumstantial evidence.
Yeah.
A whole
but
lot.
The thing is, there's too much circumstantial evidence that even if they didn't affect this election, they set themselves up to be able to affect an election. That is not in dispute. There are obvious, easily exploited back doors that just alter the vote count and then cover the tracks. Like, that's not cool.
Not cool at all.
So we don't know if they ever did it or not, but they obviously could have.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think they're going to open up their source because that would incriminate them. So if they want to sell voting machines in Wisconsin, they're going to have to start from scratch.
I think what's probably going to end up happening is Wisconsin will use some other voting machine.
Yeah, or they'll go back to, non-electronic voting.
I like non-electronic voting.
I like it in some ways. I don't like it in other ways.
What's wrong? Well, I don't like writing on a physical ballot. And I don't like the hole punching. I like the clicky machine.
Well, here's the thing. Even the clicky machines are bad because they don't always work perfectly. And then you have to figure out what to do with the broken ballots. Remember the hanging chads in 2000?
Yeah, that's the hole punching.
Yeah, but all voting machines have issues like that.
I don't know. The clicky ones are a mechanical thing.
Yeah.
It's like there's odometers in the back, just like in your car has the odometer. And when you vote, the odometers go tick 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 tick, and they count up one. It pretty much works unless the machine is broken.
Yeah, and the machines often break because they're not very well maintained. They're not used often. No one really knows much about them.
Yep, but
I mean, when you vote, look at the people running the election. They're
they
just
don't know
old people who don't have jobs or crazy people.
Yeah, but they do test all the machines before they use them by voting on them and then looking in the back to see what the numbers are.
Yeah.
And then, if that checks out, then it checks out. And if it's broken, then usually what happens is when you pull the lever, it won't pull or it won't ding, or when you try to click certain switches down, they won't click. That's how you know it's broken.
Yeah, usually. But the thing is, if one does break, there's really no way to get the votes back.
Well,
There's
usually
no audit trail.
Let's say 100 people vote, and then it breaks. You open it up, you write down the votes, and then you use another machine, or you just start using paper ballots.
If you can write down the votes, depends on how it breaks.
Well, there's an odometer in the back, so the voting person opens it up and writes what says down there.
Yeah, what if it spins wrong? What if one of the gears is screwed up and it's spinning backwards?
I don't know if that could happen.
I'm just saying the fact that there's only one method. There needs to be some sort of checksum. There are two parallel separate methods of counting the vote.
Usually what happens, though, is if the mechanical machines break, they use paper ballots. But you can't really have two ways of voting without having people vote twice on two different things.
Well, you can in Wisconsin. You vote on one touchscreen. It prints out a verifiable name of the candidate you voted for behind glass on a receipt that then goes into a big pile of receipts in a sealed box. And it also counts it electronically.
I I guess. But what if, like, it has to display the receipt to you, right?
Yeah.
So there'll be like a little piece of glass, and the piece of paper will show up under the glass, and you'll look at it to make sure it's right. And then if you, like, say no, it goes in, like, a trash bin, and if you say yes, it goes in the voting bin. What if, like, there's actually a hidden receipt under that one, and that one goes in the bin, too, that you couldn't see it down there, or something like that.
If you set up, see, it's a lot harder to fool people with mechanical things than it is to fool them with electronic things. It's real easy to just not do what the screen says in an electronic thing. It's real hard to make a complex device, because remember, one, it'll be open source, so people can just look.
Mm.
Two, it'd be pretty obvious if such a complex mechanism to cheat was actually in there.
That's true, but however, open source could still fool people because, let's say, there's the motor control code that controls the motors and makes them spin and makes the machine do its physical printing thing. If you don't actually have the machine and the code together, looking at just the code, like on the internet, won't tell you that, hey, that makes the machine spin like extra votes down into the machine on paper or something, Or even, let's say you use a barcode on all the paper. What if the barcodes don't match what the words say? So it might say voting for Joe Blow, but the barcodes are all the same on every single one of them, and they use the barcodes in the paper recount because they're lazy.
The thing is, frauds like that are much more difficult to perpetrate because they're much more easily noticed. That's the whole point here. It's not to make fraud impossible. It's to make it difficult. Because the more difficult it is, the more likely if someone tries it, they get caught. And if you get caught rigging a vote, that's the end.
What is the penalty for vote rigging?
I have no idea.
Like
it doesn't matter. The legal penalty doesn't matter at all. If a presidential candidate were actually caught cheating, that they're done.
Here's the thing. I don't think any presidential candidate actually cheats. I think people cheat for them.
Oh, yeah.
And then the question is, should the president be responsible if someone cheats for them? Because if that's true, then I'll just go cheat for the other guy.
I point out Nixon didn't break into the Watergate Hotel. Some guys just broke in for him.
Yeah, but he told them to.
Yeah, you can't prove that 100%.
It's true, but what if I go down? Let's say I join the election volunteers in Beacon, right? And the next presidential election is A versus B, and I'm gonna vote for A. I like A, but I cheat in the election to boost B, and then people blame B and say B's a cheater. Well, that works out well for me, doesn't it?
Well, they have to catch you first. And otherwise, it wouldn't even matter. Things like that generally don't get reported.
I know.
I mean, in the 2004 election, there were a lot of scandals all over the place that hit the mainstream news and then disappeared and no one talked about them again.
Yep.
And in a lot of recent elections in Chicago, and it's not just singling Republicans. Both Republicans and Democrats had a lot of people vote for them who happened to have died long before the election.
Dead people vote in every election.
Yeah, and you know what? That shouldn't be.
It definitely shouldn't be. I don't know how. They didn't even check my ID. I just registered to vote. I came in, I said who I was, and I voted.
Yeah, they didn't want me to verify anything. They showed me my name, and then they asked, "Is that your address?" And I said, "Yes."
They didn't even ask me if that was my address or anything.
And then I signed a scribble with a pencil. They didn't have a pen. They had a pencil.
Yep.
And I was like, "Can I have a pen?" They're like, "Why would you want a pen?" I was like, "So no one can erase my signature and vote again." And they were like, "What?" Because there was like these two old ladies. They were like 100,000 years old.
Nah. I think the thing is that they want so much freedom of voting, and that if you want security of voting, you're going to need to reduce freedom of voting. And, while I'm all for freedom, I think voting right now is a little tiny bit too free. Like a tiny bit. Like you can just walk in and click no matter what. And that means you can go in and click twice. You can go and click in different places. You can go,
Plus, like, if I was an election worker, I mean, when I went, I voted kind of late in the day. And in this most recent election, the election that almost no one voted in.
Mm-hmm.
And I asked, like, so how many people voted today? And they're like, no one was going to come after me. It was obvious. And, like, 200 people out of the, like, 6,000 person little voting district I'm in had actually voted. It was kind of sad.
Well,
and
that was a local election.
Yeah. Well, no, it was election day.
Yeah, but it wasn't.
There were two state issues we voted on.
Yeah, but compare that to a presidential election, like 1,000 people come out.
Yeah, even in a presidential election, only about half the people vote, if that.
Yep. But people don't really care about
all right, so
mayor.
there's two election workers in the whole place at this point. It'd be real easy for them to just put scribbles on the names of all the people who haven't come in and then put their votes in for them.
Yep.
There's no way to know. There's no way to stop it.
Yep.
I don't know what to do about that. I just don't trust people, and rightfully so, because I can think of how many ways I could game the system if I wanted to, and I know there are people who are smarter than me with fewer scruples.
Mm-hmm. All we need, I'm telling you, we need to reduce, no matter how distasteful it is, we need to reduce freedom of voting because it's too free to introduce some guarantees of voting. Because if you can't guarantee voting, then democracy really just doesn't even matter, you know?
So my thing of the day may not be the newest thing, but it's new to me, and I hope it's new to you because it's hilarious. And the payoff was much greater than I expected when I first started watching it.
I have no idea how new it is, but when I haven't seen it until just recently, which means, wow.
Yeah, we watched it. One of the things we did at our New Year's party when we were bored is we have the computer hooked up to the TV downstairs. And we were just sitting around taking turns showing everyone else funny things on the internet. And there are a lot of funny things on the internet. But this particular thing is the Ultimate Showdown. And that really says it all.
I always love those. You know, I'm not a fan of fan fiction, but a lot of fan fiction is just like showdowns between guys or, you know, people from different universes or different stories like getting together.
Yeah, getting together in a BL kind of way.
Yeah, but, you know, the Ultimate Showdown is pretty much everyone from everything getting together, which is great. I love that. Any nerd loves that action. And
I'll warn you, the tune is a little catchy, and it might get stuck in your head.
But eventually it'll get annoying, and you'll not want to hear it anymore.
Yeah.
It's one of those types of songs.
It's definitely worth seeing. I laughed my ass off, but I was a little drunk.
I have a feeling that it's at least as new. It's newer than the Chuck Norris page because it has Chuck Norris in it.
True, though the Chuck Norris page just came out of a joke on Conan O'Brien's show, if I recall correctly, apparently.
So then this must be newer than that joke, at least.
Yep.
All right. So my thing of the day, well, you ever use MAME, the arcade emulator?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, there are a lot of people out there who use MAME, apparently, and have all sorts of ROMs for it and everything. And I used to have some. But anyway, apparently the practice of making MAME machines, as in constructing arcade cabinets to run MAME on them, or taking arcade cabinets and replacing the insides with a computer that runs MAME, is a lot more common than I previously believed.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like so common that this one guy made an entire web page displaying pictures of MAME machines that he thought were crappy and explaining why they're crappy.
And explaining why they're crappy in a very funny and eloquent way, I might add.
A ranting, hilarious sort of internet funny guy kind of way.
Yeah, remember Hey Crackhead?
Yeah, exactly the same type of thing. And just to show that he's not a complete idiot, he displays one of his own MAME cabinets, and he says, yeah, just to make sure I'm not an idiot, here's one of my cabinets too. Look how ugly it is. I can't believe I did that.
See, I mean, some of them are just like, wow, someone tried to make something cool and it's not that cool, whatever. Some of them are like, wow, it's like you went out of your way to make something uncool.
It's really just people trying to make one with the best of their craftsmanship ability and not having so much ability or design sense or anything and just making something crappy.
It's like when I tried to make my DDR hard pad.
Yeah, exactly like that.
I mean, it turned out really well, except that it didn't work. And then when I made it work, it was ugly. And I ended up just throwing it away.
It was a good experience.
Yeah, I learned to not try to make a hard DDR pad.
Here's the best one. It's pretty short. It's looks like a normal arcade cabinet. It's got sticks with 6 buttons next to them and a start button for each player. And there's a monitor in there. And he has the centipede marquee on it. But the sides of it all have that marble texture on them. And he says, marble, it's still awesome, because he made fun of one previously for having a marble texture because they're all ugly. Then he says, better yet, it's got a centipede marquee, and he doesn't even have a goddamn trackball.
You know, I should make a MAME cabinet and just only have one game in it, Rampart, and I'll have a friggin' trackball.
3 trackballs.
It'll be cue balls from a billiard set. See, I'm a real big fan.
You're not going to get real Atari trackballs?
If I could find them. See, my gripe about the Atari trackballs were that they weren't massive enough.
They're pretty massive.
Yeah.
They're
I'm
more
a
massive
fan
than
of those massive, giant, like, cut off the tips of your fingers trackballs.
I remember them being more massive than billiards balls. So I don't know why you would want to use billiard balls instead. Maybe I remember wrong.
I think you do. Billiard balls are kind of massive.
Apparently what a lot of people do is they get the balls from, those Golden Tee golf machines that are popular in bars?
God, those are the stupidest things ever.
They're pretty dumb, but they have that ball in them, and that's a good arcade ball. And a lot of people either get them from Golden Tee golf machines, or they get them from the supplier who makes the Golden Tee golf machines.
Huh.
So that's where you can still get the balls for arcade machines nowadays. And the thing is, looking at a lot of these MAME cabinets, it's kind of scary. I think a lot of people are running Golden Tee Golf on there because they have the balls positioned right in the middle of the controls.
But Golden Tee Golf is a bad game.
I know, but I guess these people, it's like some of them are obviously only playing certain games on their MAME because they only have certain controls.
Well, then there's that one guy who has every control.
Yeah, and there's a few people who have like every control scheme possible because obviously they're trying to play every type of game, I don't know. If I had a MAME machine, I'd pretty much just have sticks and buttons and trackballs, and any other kind of game that had weird controls, forget it. It's not worth it.
But anyway, it's Anime Day, and we watched one new show. It's not that new, but
It's a movie, actually.
yeah, it's a movie called Kazeo Mita Shonen, or The Boy Who Saw the Wind.
I like it a lot.
It's all right. I liked it. A lot of people think it's a Ghibli movie. In fact, on Nausicaa.net, it's on the page of movies that are commonly mistaken for Ghibli movies, and many VCD bootlegs of this movie have the Studio Ghibli logo on them.
When I first downloaded it, it was pretty much just I was on the Anime Ski and I saw a torrent for The Boy Who Saw the Wind Ghibli-style movie. And I said, well, I never heard of this, but I'll get it. And I got it. And I watched it alone a long time ago and forgot most of it, but we watched it all together again just this weekend.
See, it's all right. It's really pretty. Like it looks like it's in a really old style, but the style is really well done.
I think it was done in 2000. It's not that old.
Yeah, but it looks a lot older than it is.
Mm.
And it's just the typical, there's a boy, he has a power, he goes on an adventure to save people, and it's good, but it's kind of simplistic. Like, there's good guys, they're perfect. There's bad guys, they're absolutely sillily evil.
Oh, the bad guy, yeah.
Yeah, the bad guy is like, imagine Hitler, only...
I think they could have made that a little better if they would have added some... They could have shown the rebellion sometimes in a bad light. Like, look, they're killing people too.
Yeah, but
Because they
no.
always had the bad guys with those, like, masks on. So that, that when they do that kind of thing, if they would have humanized those guys in the masks a little bit more to make the rebellion seem, not perfect and great, and if they would have had that evil scientist lady...
Not turn insane?
Yeah, they should have actually, made her someone who is nice and is, forced into evil, so you kind of, feel bad for her instead of going, she's a crazy nut, get rid of her.
Which is what they seem to start doing right away.
And then they just forget
and then
about
they're
it.
like, all right, she's crazy. They make her crazier than Ritsuko's mom from Ava.
Yeah, every other anime seems to do it the way I just described. This one was just forget it, it's not worth the effort. But it was still good.
It was really simplistic. Like, every time they needed to move the main character somewhere else for a change of scene or to move the plot along, they'd have him fall from a great height, be knocked unconscious, and wake up in a strange land.
Yeah, they did that twice right at the beginning.
Yeah.
It was great.
It happens a grand total of 3 frickin' times.
Yeah, they need
They need
hope.
another way to move the plot.
They need an only hope or a trap.
It's a trap.
Trap.
But it's definitely worth watching. I mean, I enjoyed it. And there's a lot of good characters. It's real sad at points. We can't ruin the end, and I suggest you watch it because there's a twist that I didn't see coming.
Yeah, I mean, I'd seen it before, and I forgot what happened at the end, and then I was like, all right. Not like the other ones where there's a twist that it was so strong you remember it. That way when you see it again, you're like, ooh, it's going to happen again.
It's just it's a twist you don't see coming. That's really all I can say. I did not expect the movie to end the way it did.
It was a good ending.
I think so.
I don't think there could have been a better ending for what they had already done in the show.
Had the ending not been the way it was, I probably would have written the show off because other than that, it was just kind of typical, predictable. See, that was the worst thing. It was pretty much 100% predictable. Other than the twist, every single thing that happens you can predict from like the previous two things that happened. And as we were all watching the show, because we watched it at the party, we had everyone here, and it was basically just everyone was yelling out, "Oh, obviously blah 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 is going to happen," and then blah 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 happens. It's like every time there's a happy scene, there's a sad scene right after it that pretty much is a direct thing that ruins whatever was happy.
So that's a problem, though, with all kinds of things these days, is that when you've seen enough anime or you've seen enough movies or television over the course of your life, everything gets predictable. And you need to watch really complex or really weird stuff to find something that's not predictable.
Yep. The thing is, even they get predictable because the unpredictability itself becomes predictable.
Yeah, it's like, oh, he's going to do the opposite of what's normally going to happen, so he's going to do this. Oh, I got it right.
Yep. Like, we started a while ago, we were watching, like, Hitchcock movies. We were watching the old Hitchcock movies, like, early in his career. Mm-hmm. Like, they're good, but they're hard to watch and just old.
And, like, in the first one, I figured out what was going to happen, like, right before it happened at the end.
Yep.
But then later on, I was, like, saying what was going to happen, like minutes and minutes before it happened.
Because back then, like, it seems like the big thing with movies back then was to put a twist at the end. Like, every movie had a twist at the end.
Well, no, that's not the big thing back then. That's Hitchcock's thing. And
I've seen a lot of other movies from that era.
Well, of course, but Hitchcock is, like, the twist master.
Yep. The problem was, once you, like, start figuring out how the twists work, you always predict the twist because it's always just think, what's the least likely thing to happen? Well, that's obviously how the movie's going to end.
Well, it's not the least likely thing to happen. The least likely thing to happen is something crazy.
The least likely thing to happen that is still possible to happen.
It's not really something that's least likely. It's actually very likely. It's just unexpected.
Nah.
It's the thing that is most unexpected to happen, but still makes a whole lot of sense and is very exciting.
A lot of times, though, they didn't make sense.
Those are the bad Hitchcock movies that no one remembers.
Yeah, like the one, I don't remember which one it was, where they're conflicted, the bunch of characters are conflicted about killing someone, and then they end up not even having to worry about it because a freaking bomb blows up the train they're on and the guy dies anyway.
Yeah, that's just something crazy. But like 39 Steps is very makes sense, and
yeah. Though also highly predictable.
Some of it was highly predictable, but it's one of those things where you can predict it if you remember everything that happened in the movie, because the twist is something that you forgot that happened way at the beginning.
Though regardless, this movie is highly predictable. If you've seen like 3 or 4 other anime in your life, you'll probably just know exactly what's going to happen in this whole show.
But it'll still be fun. If you like Ghibli movies and things, then if you've seen them all and you're looking for more of that, and Ghibli doesn't supply frequently enough, and you're bored and you want a movie to watch, Boy Who Saw the Wind is great.
There's also a really funny, he ends up, one of the times when he gets knocked out and wakes up somewhere, he wakes up in this village. And apparently their sole source of food is hunting these zabi. Zabi are giant fucking man-eating, kill-you-all fish.
Like a whale-barracuda mix thing.
Like a bunch of villagers die and they finally take down this fish and then they have a big feast. And then everyone in the room with us is like, why don't they just hunt smaller fish or something? This is kind of silly. And then in the show, one character's like, why do we hunt these stupid zabi all the time?
Yeah, that was great. I think they were trying to make a comment about like vegetarianism or something, and then whoever made the show gave the message that's not good.
Yeah, the moral of the show is really heavy-handed.
Yeah, it was like you're disrespecting the zabi by not eating it. Like, it's already dead, and... we eat it, and it eats us, and it's they tried to make a message out of it. That was pretty, not deep in its presentation.
Like the evil dictator at the end, when he, I'll try to do this without ruining anything. Basically, at the end of the movie, when the evil dictator, whatever is happening to him, he pretty much is like, oh, I wasn't evil, I was just lonely.
Yeah, it's like they say it right out, whereas other shows are more subtle and
subtle is not the show.
Intellectually stimulating.
The show is definitely not subtle.
Not subtle at all. It's hard to be subtle when you have a kid flying around and a cute little animal going me 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 me.
Oh yeah, the cute little animal. I totally forgot about that.
And then they had the cute little animal babies.
Yeah, that was really cute.
Too cute. I mean, I seen cute things, but the little babies were just like, where the tail was more than half the body. Oh my god.
I think they were supposed to be foxes.
If for nothing else, you should just watch the show to see the cute animal.
And that was Geek Nights with Rim and Scott. Special thanks to DJ Pretzel for the opening music.
Thanks for listening. Please remember to point your favorite podcatcher at feeds.feedburner.com/geeknights to get the latest episodes as soon as they're released. Also, please visit our website at www.frontrowcrew.com for the latest updates and forum discussions. And whether you love or hate our podcast, we won't know unless you send your feedback to us at geeknights@gmail.com.